the propaganda is that welfare does not go to help poor people. Welfare goes to keep rich black women breeding like rabbits and driving Cadillacs. Well, I don't want my money to go for that, So yes, I'd like to have money go to help the poor, but not welfare. Now here's where the propaganda has been successful in dissociating the actual facts about welfare and aid from the idea that you have a responsibility to help people. Several years after the decline in welfare, as welfare declines, regularly, steadily, as it has been doing since around 1970, a couple of years later you get an increase in broken families, child abuse, illegitimate births, and so on and so forth. Now, whether that's a cause-effect relation or a before-after relation, you can argue, but there is a temporal relation, at least, between cutting back of support systems and disruption of families. And that's not, I think you can imagine why that should be. And it gets worse. Incidentally, there's another factor intervening which overwhelms all of them, and that is that starting around that same time, real wages began to stagnate, and from 1980 they've been going down, and for poorer people much further down, and for younger people even worse. So sure, if you cut down support systems for poor people, you're going to have a lot of poor people, that's for sure. Well, what's the effect of all of that stuff going to be? Well, you don't have to be a genius to predict. I mean, what it's going to mean is child abuse, neglect of children, malnutrition, violence against children, by children, drug abuse, unwanted pregnancies, all sorts of things. In fact, all of these consequences are exactly what has been the clear, determinable result of social policy by the people who call themselves conservatives. They have been fighting a war against families and children, and it goes back to the early 70s. The propaganda that people are being fed is what you read in that article, that it was a failure of the attempt to deal with these problems. On the contrary, it was a conscious attempt to create those problems. People are being deluged with this propaganda. As a result, they probably believe that the war on poverty was a failure, and that it didn't get rid of welfare. And all these things that the author there says everyone believes. Yeah, sure, that's what you would believe if you were totally subordinated to the propaganda system and you didn't have a way to think yourself out of it. Now, most people don't, but the author of that article does. He knows enough, or at least could know enough easily, to find out just what happened to the war on poverty.